Good morning, everyone. Well, as you can see, it's cloudy, cool, and wet outside, but that's okay because it's very cozy inside. And here's kind of what I've got going today. Just a few little projects. It's mostly going to be inside today, though I'm going to show you a couple of things in the garden. So there we go. This island arrangement has been here. Gosh, it's been here for a while. And actually, it could stay here for a good bit longer. But I'm getting kind of tired of it. And I want to take all of these cuttings of the Sedum Autumn Joy. See all of these? I'm going to take these out. And while it's still kind of cool and wet, I'm going to stick these in that new seeded garden bed in the back. And by next spring, they should be putting out root growth, and I will have nice little tufts of this succulent. So that is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to deconstruct this, and then I'm going to make a new arrangement here with some cuttings from the garden. This is that beautiful emerald green arbor vitae. And then I got just a few kind of fallish flowers and filler from Trader Joe's yesterday. I'm trying to figure out a way to incorporate this kind of conifer greenery without it looking too wintry or too Christmassy, if that makes sense. And so that's what I'm going to try to do. So I will probably, if it's still intact, you can see on the inside here, if I remove some more things, that I had some of that natural floral foam. It's not that that green stuff we often see, the Floral Oasis. This is a natural fiber, kind of compressed wood pulp. And that is, if it is still intact and functional and not too stinky, I'm going to try to reuse it. So first I'm going to deconstruct this. I think probably I have enough dried hydrangea heads already. If not, I might pump up some of my arrangements that I've got in other parts of the cottage. If not, they'll just go into the compost pile. But I'm going to deconstruct this, and then slowly, layer by layer, I'm going to put together the new arrangement. So as I complete each step, I'll give you a glimpse at how it's looking and the different layers that I'm using to hopefully get another beautiful arrangement from the garden with a little help from Trader Joe's. Before I go back in and finish my flower arrangement, I wanted to discuss something with you. I got so many requests for information about Better Boxwood during the garden tour that I had at the beginning of October. So I wanted to answer some of those questions. Which variety is best for which purpose? Now, many of you wanted to know which one this one was that I've got planted in the little villages in and around the terraces, the upper and lower terrace. And this is actually heritage, and I love it. I think it's got a little bit bigger leaf, and I'm going to put a couple of diagrams up here for how each one can be best used in the garden, I guess. So it's heritage over here too, and you can see how the new growth, because it's still been so warm, uncharacteristically warm, until today, that it is putting out new growth and is absolutely beautiful. Now, one of the things I have noticed about Better Boxwood versus some of the other varieties is it doesn't do this. So far, in my experience, and this is the third year I've had them, I don't get any of that winter bronzing, where the foliage turns that kind of dark reddish cast, almost brown. And I have noticed that on the Better Boxwood, on any of the varieties, I'm not getting any of that effect. They typically are just beautiful and green and pretty wonderful. Now, which do I like to use for what? Well, there are 4 varieties. There's Renaissance, Heritage, Skylight, and Babylon. And I don't think I have any Babylon, actually. It's got a little bit more of a diminutive cascading form. But I do have right here this darling, I mean, it's kind of breaking the bounds of its form, but this darling little Renaissance here is, I like these best, I think, for boxwood balls, especially in pots. And that's what this one is. Now this one over here, I'm starting to, as you can see, I'm trying to do a multiple ball topiary, a poodle topiary, if you will. This one is Skylight. And the reason it's so good is because it grows rather quickly and it lends itself to pruning. It's also, I think, the most cold hardy of them all. And it's also what I am using in the new flower beds along the back fence where it's kind of in the background. I'll show you that momentarily. Now, I also like Skylight if I want to create conical topiary. These are being formed. All of the varieties have really, really dense foliage, a dense growth pattern, and I like that about them. In addition, of course, to the fact that they are very blight resistant, disease resistant, winter burn resistant. I have yet to have any of them die on me. Well, I take that back. One died on me, and that was operator error because I just didn't get it any water. All of this along here, which lends itself to hedging and such, that is all heritage. So I'm going to take a break for a moment here and show you a couple of other examples of why I think it's superior to other forms of boxwood. Well, we're all friends here, and we're all trying to live a really healthy garden-inspired life. I know I am. And so I wanted to share something with you. You know, when you get to be our age or my age in my 60s, it's all about our health. And we try to monitor and track all sorts of things. We track our steps, we track our calories, we track how many grams of protein. Well, we can also track other things, and that's where function health comes in. So it's more important than ever that we not only know those kind of metrics, but that we have metrics that tell us what's going on inside. And I think the older we get, the more important it is for us to be proactive about our own health. And again, that's where function can really, I think, enhance what we already know about ourselves. So what is it? Function is basically a health platform that gives us access to comprehensive lab testing, all of which is then provided back to us. And it gives us metrics on our stress level, on inflammation, on toxins, on our heart health, all that are just crucial to us knowing what our health profile is. So I can take that information that it gives me now in the moment from the results of my first lab testing that I just had done this morning. I'm already starting to lose my Band-Aid, and I will get my test results shortly. But it doesn't just give me my numbers in a dashboard. It really explains to me what those numbers mean, and it highlights areas in my own personal profile where I need to focus my attention. And I think that's what's really important. It's so personalized. It's all about me. And for those of us that really want agency in our own health and we want peace of mind, I think it is, well, I think it's just a wonderful thing that we can do as a gift to ourselves and really to our family members as we take care of our own health. The first 1,000 people get a $100 credit toward their membership. Visit www.functionhealth.com. You guys will not regret. So Better Boxwood, I mean, it is great for topiary. Other than that, I would say Green Mountain is my favorite variety to use for topiary, but it doesn't necessarily have the blight resistance. The other thing, and you guys really know your boxwood. Another question that somebody had was Better Boxwood, was it bred to be that way, to be blight resistant, or was it genetically modified? And it was actually bred to be this way. And this way is really, really beautiful. So let me show you another reason that I like it. And I think it's superior to other varieties of boxwood. You can tell I'm having a hard time talking because it's gotten really cold out here. I have found that other varieties do this, just kind of arbitrarily. I will get some browning, some brown branches, just inexplicably. You can see I got several that I've had to cut out. The plant doesn't die, but several of the branches just inexplicably die back. I found that to be the case with baby gem in particular, a little bit with wintergreen, but not so much, and not at all with Better Boxwood. So all of this is Better Boxwood, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Now let's take a little stroll, and I'm going to show you. Let's see if I can walk and hold the camera at the same time. I'm no Stuart Perriman. It's also great for containers. So this in here, this is heritage, and I am transforming it into boxwood balls. So I've actually got, I don't know if you can see here, I've got 4 1-gallon heritage in here, and before long, I think it's really going to be a fabulous, just, you know, even just a plain ball form, globe form is a topiary in my book, and I've got another one started in here, and I would imagine that by the end of next season they will completely fill out that support there. Those are from Gardener's Supply, by the way. They're Jardin cages. Along here, along this wall, because I wanted something really, really tough, this is also heritage. So this is what I've got primarily as the little boxwood villages. A lot of it, because it was doing so well, I transplanted in other areas, as I suspected I would do when I installed them immediately. But now let me go down to the new garden bed, because I'm going to show you where I've kind of strategically used Skylight. Okay, now in the back of this new bed, which is so happy with all of this rain, everything is thriving. Look at all the new flowers on the white wedding hydrangea. But back in the background, as my first layer, is that Skylight. Now it will grow tall. I will not necessarily prune it. I may prune it on the front end a little bit, but as it grows, I will not prune its height, because I want it to get tall and provide an evergreen wall, if you will, for winter interest, but also a beautiful canvas upon which I think the encores and everything else can play. The other reason that I wanted Skylight, in addition to the fact that it will get tall, is I am not planning on pruning it. So I wanted something that would get tall, and would get tall rather quickly. And since this is on a berm, right here you can see, it's on a grade. Since it's on a grade and it's a little bit more awkward to work on, I won't have to prune it. I can just let it grow tall and gorgeous and evergreen, and I think it'll be really, really beautiful. So if you are right, and right now's the time, I think right now is the perfect time to add evergreen interest to your garden. And if you love boxwood as much as I do, then you might want to take a look at Better Boxwood, simply because it will prevent you a lot of heartache and a lot of worry down the line. So I've provided kind of a handy little chart here of the different varieties that you can look into. I have seen them at Home Depot. I've seen them at Lowe's. You can buy them online. They're available a lot of different places. But like I said, I'm providing you with this handy little guide, so you can decide which one will best serve your purposes. Though I have found that all of them work pretty well for all different kinds of uses in your garden. So take a look at that. Okay, it's cold now, and I'm going to go inside and finish my flower arrangement. Well, okay, this is the perfect example of making a mess before you make beauty. Here's my big pile of what I took out from this container, which is looking pretty sad and pretty pitiful. So I don't think I'm going to reuse this floral, but like I say, it's just kind of a compressed pulp. This is what it looks like. This is one block that I split into two. I've got a whole box of this in the basement, and I'll put a link. And then I just use some floral tape to secure it. So I really liked this white-footed container. It was a thrifted find. So I am just going to deconstruct this. I'll take out the wire framing at the top. I'll clean it out, and we'll just start all over again. This is probably one of my favorite pieces I've ever gotten at a thrift store. It's just the perfect scale for the corner of my island here, and the white tends to complement all the other whites that I've got in the kitchen. This one was made in Portugal. But here's something else that I do. This is kind of a no-brainer thing. You all probably do it as well. And that's that I like to use some of these little felt pads, the felt glides, and I typically put them on the bottom of anything that I use as an arrangement on the corner of the island. Number one, because I want to protect the surface of the marble itself, but then also when I need to move it out of the way for us to dine at the counter or for any other reason, then I can move it back and forth very, very easily without having to pick it up, and it just kind of glides across the surface. So as I said, this is probably a no-brainer tip. You guys already know, but I go through these felt glides like nobody's business, and I have them in all sizes, and I find them absolutely indispensable for inside and out even. And here is now my cleaned up footed container with fresh pulp in there and fresh florist tape to secure it, and also a little bit of chicken wire to give just some additional support. The other really was kind of stinky, and I just discarded the entire mess, but I don't always do that. If it still has some structural integrity, then I'll save it and I'll reuse it again. And but nevertheless, this whole arrangement will benefit from it being very clean, less bacterial growth, and the plants, the cuttings overall, I think will be a lot happier. And then here's my mound that I have to contend with once my new arrangement is constructed. I'll put all of these in a basket and take it outside. The other thing is that I don't always, but I do typically like to create whatever flower arrangement I'm making, particularly this one, where it is going to be positioned. That way I'll know that the scale of not only the container, but that the scale of the entire composition is what I want. And so in this case, I am going to just arrange it in situ. And I'm going to start with the evergreen, the Arbor Vitae. And by the way, I typically am cutting from things that need to be pruned anyway, evergreens particularly this time of year. So let's move on to the next phase. And one other thing, here's a little tip. We need to put up that little light bulb, Stuart. I don't put water into it and hydrate the foam pulp until I already have this composed. And that's because if the container gets wet in any way, sometimes that florist tape won't stick. And so I like to have all of this constructed before I pour any water on it. And this, I'm probably not going to use any floral preservative, floral food or anything. It's just going to be cool, clean water. I often share with you what I'm watching and what I'm reading, and I love this series on YouTube. This one in particular is about Emily Dickinson. I've watched others about Edith Wharton, all sorts of artists and poets, and I find it really, really relaxing and very informative. It's by a gentleman who is a what is he? Is he a professor of literature or neuroscience or something? I'll get that information for you. But that is what I'm watching right now as I complete the first layer of this arrangement. I don't think I'm going to need any more cuttings, but that's the beauty That's the beauty of cutting from your own garden. If you do, you just go outside and snip some more. Well, in the course of a day, you're never sure what kind of pleasant people you're going to meet. And I just met two delightful Californians, Sydney and Rodney, who came to the cottage unexpectedly. And we just had the loveliest visit. They're en route to Kansas for, I think it was a wedding. But look at this. Isn't this adorable? She made a little tooth pillow. Apparently she does quilting. And Cindy picked out the fabric for Danny, especially a little tooth pillow. And then she made me these darling pot holders. And aren't they perfect? Isn't the fabric just perfect for the cottage? She took into account all my colors, and I just love them. So that was a pleasant, happy little diversion. And now I am finishing up my arrangement. So now I have... what was this called? It's some kind of filler. I don't really recognize it. It was called like sea broom or something like that, but it's a wonderful filler. It reminds me of broomweed that sometimes is on the side of the road, things that make the stuff of which tumbleweeds is made. And I really like it because it gives it kind of a free form, in nature kind of meadowy vibe. So that was my second layer after the greens, and now I'm ready for my third layer. So after that pleasant interruption, I am moving on to finish my flower decorating, but I want to recommend this channel to you on YouTube. It's by Professor Green Yorston. And he does, from a very analytical and I think, neurological standpoint, he looks at great artists. And it's really, really fascinating. And I just watched Edgar Allan Poe, F. Scott Fitzgerald. I've watched a number of them, but they're really fascinating and very, very entertaining, especially if you are a fan of one or the other writers. Okay, so I finished my arrangement, cleaned off my counter, and it has the look that I wanted it to look, which is kind of an unkempt fall. I don't want to say meadow, but unkempt fall. Let's just call it that. And I ended up, adding some additional things to it. In addition to the chrysanthemums and the filler that I got at Trader Joe's, I also added some Brazopenstemon seed heads and a little bit of foliage from Orange Rocket Barberry. And then I thought it would be fun, and I like the way they're kind of drying in their pods. I added some of the butterfly weed pods. They're still a little bit green with some flower on them, but I also like the way that some of the pods have already opened and have started to brown. So I think you can see some, let me see. Yeah, you can see some right there. So I think the overall effect is autumnal. And most of it came from my garden. A little bit came from Trader Joe's. And of all the things I do in the course of the week or designing my week, if you will, I think this is my favorite exercise. And I typically do it once a week. Sometimes it's very structured and sometimes it's more like this. But it is always a source of joy for me. So thanks for keeping me company. I'm starting to do this because in my head, I find myself so often having a conversation with all of you. And I thought it might be fun to just kind of have an actual conversation as I'm putting together these different kinds of things and designing my day. So how did you design your day today?